Are you sick and tired of the hectic lifestyle that you're living, getting the kids to all their activities, getting all your daily tasks done? Do you maybe just need a break and go back to kind of simple living? Well, I'm here today with our guest that has gone to a Buddhist retreat. This is Anadine Marshall, and I'm excited to talk to her about a Buddhist retreat and Buddhism in general and how that's changed her life from being very high stress level to lower stress and to understanding who she is in the world and how she fits in with everybody else. Well, welcome to the show, Anadine.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
happy to be here.
Great. I'm so glad to have you here. So let's back up before the Buddhist retreat that you went to. And can you just tell us a little bit about what your life was like, kind of the day-to-day, and what drove you to seeking some refuge besides the typical Hawaii vacation?
Yeah, because that was an option, you know.
I know. I heard you say it. That's
to run off to Hawaii. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here today. And I feel like this is something that's very relevant to us as a society. Is just, you know, I thought about this the other day. I thought we are not, we don't need to be taught to do more necessarily or act more. I think we all have, at least in our area here and in our culture here, we're very active. We've got our to-do list. We're moving fast. We've got all these things. We've got these goals. We've got all these things we want to accomplish. You know, maybe what we need to do is learn how to stop, and we learn how to rest, which is really, really hard. That's always been a real challenge for me throughout my whole life. I was raised with an amazing family. My mom is this little Chilean that is just, you know, she had a hard time taking a nap. And she was always like, okay, what are we doing now? And so she raised some very driven children. I'm the oldest of 6. You know, I was always doing good things, and I felt good about them. I'd get a lot of happy endorphins by accomplishing a good thing and doing a good thing and serving.
Box,
and checking the box and serving somebody. I mean, always. I mean, you feel good when you're doing good and when you're making a difference. So this habit energy that I believe that's what we call it in Buddhism, is called habit energy. I don't even believe it started when I was a child because of my mom. I believe that, and in Buddhism, they talk a lot about, this is something that I have actually inherited from my ancestors.
Generations. Right?
This is my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. It's this energy of do. And even in our culture, and, you know, in where we're at in Utah here, you know, we've got these industrious pioneers. We've got this go, go, go. Let's build it. Let's make it happen, which is a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's what we've created, and that's why our country is incredible.
A lot of entrepreneurs here, and that's what I love about this area.
Yeah. It is, but it also, our strengths can also have the flip side of it, where our strengths can also be a weakness. And so I found that, you know, I did a lot of work in Arizona, loving and helping the homeless down there. I've had good friends. I still have good friends down there that are homeless, trying to solve the problem. How do I get you out of living in your tents? And, you know, how do I do that? How do I feed you? You know, I have 5 children. You know, I've been super involved in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, strong in there, and serving on callings and making dinners and, you know, helping people all the time. My husband's a full-time seminary teacher, so we've been involved in helping youth, and I love it. And then, and as you're raising children and you're trying to be a better person and you're trying to achieve, sometimes those habit energies can kind of spin you a little bit and can make it where it's hard to focus on.
Take a breath. Yeah.
Take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to listen to your child's story that they want to tell you. And sometimes it's a really long story and you're just looking at them and being like, in your head going, okay, what did he just say?
Mm-hmm.
Or
just nodding your head.
Yeah, like, I got to look at your face because my mind is going a mile a minute to all the things that I still didn't get done today. And I know that is something that happens a lot, especially within women.
Right. Yeah.
And then that can kind of bring up feelings of I'm not enough. Insecurity. I'm not like them. Oh, they look so good and I can't be this. And so I have been involved in a lot of amazing things in my life. I've been able to love and serve a lot. I've been able to experience a lot of wonderful things. About 4 years ago, I was asked to help start a local food pantry here in American Fork.
Oh, great.
Yeah, called Tabitha's Way. And growing that and feeding the community is an amazing calling and mission, right? So I felt it was a calling in my life, and it was similar to other things I had done before. But what was interesting is, as you're loving and serving and you're trying to help and find solutions on how you can bring people out of homelessness and, feed them, you're listening to their sadness, you're listening to their pain, you're listening to their suffering. And it became so, such a joy, but such a suffering and such a pain for me because I didn't know how to solve it.
You're taking on their burdens.
Yeah, taking yourself. It on. And sometimes we get this complex of like the God complex or the Christ complex. Like I can take your pain and maybe that will relieve some of your suffering if I can take it in and I can feel it and I can experience it. So I love my friends. I love my clients so much. And but I feel it was taking definitely a toll. And the reason why is because I wasn't using that same loving energy that I was giving to them and all of my energy. Mm-hmm. I wasn't giving it to myself.
To yourself, yeah. I just want to make a point on that. So my wife is almost exactly like you as far as being, I can tell you're very loving and caring and, you really care about other people and you want to serve them. And at the same time, she neglects her own, self-care. Yeah. And I'm always the one making massage appointments for her, chiropractic appointments, or at least bugging her about them because she hasn't made them. I'm like, you need to go get a massage. I'm just going to make one for you. Yeah. You need to go to physical therapy because your back's bothering you. And I see that a lot. It's not just my wife and you, but just kind of in general, women are trying to do a lot, and sometimes it's because of their spouses kind of have these high expectations, and I have high expectations, I'll admit it, for my wife, and I expect her to do a lot of the work with the kids, and I should be doing more, and same with the household chores, and I'm not perfect in that way, but I think she feels all these responsibilities, and she doesn't take that time to relax a little bit and get the good sleep and meditate and think about, what she really wants out of life and priorities. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And then we feel bad about it, right? And then we start feeling like, what's wrong with me, because we don't see that vulnerability, that, we don't see that others aren't showing that vulnerability, that they are also struggling, and, I'm active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And, you go to church and you sit there and you're with the other women and you're like, I don't know, like it's just this feeling of, come on, I know you feel like me too. Let's talk about this. Let's get deep about really what's bothering us and how we can help and support each other. And there are groups that can do an amazing thing, not even in churches, but, groups that can really help create that network, or your friend group or your best friend or something that can help give that to you. But, and your spouse or your family members can be a real blessing to you to be able to find that place. But I agree, and there's just so many demands, it's just, but you also feel really good when you get a lot done. Right, so when you go to bed and you're like, oh, I was awesome today. I got this and this and this and this and did this and this and this, and you go to bed exhausted. But then what does it feel like in your sleep? I wake up so much, and I still do, even through my journey, learning how to stop and rest, and through this Buddhism journey that I've been on, I wake up and it feels like I've been to battle with all the crazy dreams and, the trying to solve a problem in my dream and, trying to do these things. So those habit energies are there. And the key is that you recognize that they are there. So through the pantry, through growing this pantry where we're feeding about 3,000 individuals a month. And
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, amazing. And it really was God. God grew this out of weak, fragile, trying to do their best people, volunteers, the founders, everyone just trying to do their best. And he creates this amazing thing that's able to serve and love people. But, throughout, I was getting these little messages that were like, maybe you need to take care of yourself. Maybe you're not well. But there was no time for that. Your texts are always going and you're thinking about the next thing. And, I have some very dear friends that struggle with drug addiction. And I started really focusing myself on that too. Like, oh, this is really terrible. The opioid epidemic, especially in Utah, like, how can I fight this? How can I do it? And so one of the things that we battle, I think as humans, is we battle the ego. And so I never really felt like I was the one doing it all. But as I've been in this journey, realize you really identify with yourself as somebody who's solving this problem, or you really do feel that you're going to solve world hunger, and so you start feeling like that responsibility. I'm going to solve this problem. And it is overwhelming. No matter who you are, you cannot do that alone. And that is one of the lessons I've learned through this journey. But it got to a point, and I'd say probably around October, where I wasn't doing well. Like, I was feeling anxiety. I was feeling like hard to breathe.
So physical symptoms,
physical
not
stuff,
just mental.
Yeah, it was really.
Yeah, when it's bad when you start getting the physical symptoms.
Yeah, it was really crazy, and just and confusion. Why do I feel like this when I am doing a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
Why do and why can't I help the people like I want to help them? And it's just, I was just thought I was in control. And I was having a hard time letting go. And it's really interesting. And then I started seeing it affecting my family life, right? My marriage. And it's no surprise why divorce is high. We have a really hard time being mindful about our habit energy, about we just escape. We always want to escape. If something's painful or if an emotion's coming up, we want to run. We want to cover it by something else, by a show.
Yeah, I love that from Technolon. It talks about that too, that, we're escaping the realities. We're watching TV, or we're eating food, or we're occupying our mind with something else, video games or whatever. Yeah. It can be anything, right? And instead of addressing the problem, we just go do something else, and then the problem's still there, and it just keeps building up. So.
Yeah, because it's painful. No one wants to feel that.
It's
right?
hard to get inside and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, looking deeply. That's what Technolon says, is looking deeply. But that looking deeply has to happen. It needs to happen, but the way to make it happen is we have to stop. And so I knew that I needed to stop. There was something not right. I knew I was going in a trajectory that wasn't going to be helpful for my family. And I wasn't feeling, I just knew, and so that was really, really scary for me is
to stop.
The stop.
So how'd you make that transition? I'm curious how you went from full speed locomotive to, this small.
Yeah. And it wasn't even COVID-19 that, was stopping. And interestingly enough, everyone's learning the stop thing lately. But yeah, around October or so, the holidays were coming. volunteers, donations. It was just amazing, right? Everyone's there. They want to do such good things. But I was like, and we had moved to a new space in the pantry, so we were expanding. And my husband actually said, "Hey, sweetheart, you should look into this really neat book that I have on my Audible. It's called The Heart of Buddha's Teachings by Technolon."
So it was your husband that started it.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. And he's a seminary teacher, Christian background and everything.
Yeah, and so he's like, "It's got some really cool stuff. I think you would be interested in it." So I started listening to it, right, while I'm doing all the things, right, in the background and listening, because, who has time to read a book, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
I do a lot of podcasts in the car, too.
Yeah, it's so good. So I'm listening to it, and I was, like, blown away. I was like, oh, my gosh, it's saying in here that if I stop, if I recognize and calm, then I can, and rest, then I can heal, which is very different than what I feel like I was always taught, that just go serve more or go do more, and then you will feel happiness, which you do feel happy, but it was different. So, and then there were some other wonderful thoughts in there, like right thinking, right views, right diligence. So there is what seeds am I feeding in here? Am I nurturing wholesome seeds or beneficial seeds, or am I feeding unbeneficial and unwholesome, which is completely in line with Christ's teachings? So I was listening to all this beautiful stuff. Second one, and immediately I listened to it again, and I took notes. I was like, hey, this is amazing, in my journal. So while I was eating, I would write my notes. And then I listened to it again. And so I was like, this really needs to sink deeply. I really think there's something important here. And I think a few things sunk in, and I realized that this is something that I have to have in my life, or I'm not going to be well. I'm going to destroy a lot of good things that I don't want to be destroyed. And I'm going to be the one that end up doing it. It's nobody else's fault. It'll be me, because I'm creating my own life. And
so do you think the breaking point was you were just running so fast that you couldn't go any faster and just kind of broke down, kind of like a car that, hasn't been maintained? Or what do you think was that transition point?
I don't think it was the pace that I was going on necessarily that I was able to recognize. I think it was my desperation in not knowing how to take care and love someone and help them. So I wanted to help relieve the suffering. So I imagined that I could just take it in, and I wanted to relieve the suffering, like the hunger
of others, but not yourself.
Yeah. So I didn't see it at first. So I'm like, oh, Buddha's going to help me learn this. This is really interesting. I'm going to be able to teach this to these friends of mine, that are in need. But really interesting. I wasn't seeing it that I was actually in need. I mean, yes, I couldn't breathe because I had anxiety, and, I couldn't really rest because my brain was going a mile a minute, and I could see things happening within my family. But my focus has always been on how am I going to help my friend, or how am I going to, be better to help somebody. And so I think that's the way God just was helping, was introducing this to me. And so that's what I did. And I started reading the book. And then in the book, it talks about being part of a Sangha. And a Sangha would be like a congregation or a ward or a group of people who are involved in trying to learn, right? They're in a journey. And
like-minded.
Like-minded individuals that can be there to support each other. And I had this thought that said, I need to learn about that. I think that'd be really helpful in learning this. So I remember 2 a.m, I was up and I just Googled Sangha Provo or Sangha, Utah. And it came up Awakening Valley Sangha in Provo, which is 20 minutes from my place. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I immediately got the news, subscribed to the newsletter, and, just started communicating with them. Found out they were doing a little weekend retreat. Signed up for that night too.
Here in Utah.
Yeah, in Utah. Okay. And signed up for that. Was a little nervous. Didn't know what to expect. because what I imagine Buddhists were people that, just are very peaceful, earth loving, that wear sandals and,
live at a monastery
skirts,
and just meditate all day.
They meditate all day and,
practice yoga.
Yeah.
And that stuff.
It looks cool. It's kind of in trend, right? Like,
Right,
it looks cool. But I knew it wasn't about what it looked like, it's about what it is. And so, and so I started learning from them. So once a week after church, I would go to the Sangha, and it was amazing. Learned how to meditate. Always was interested. How do you meditate? Do you have to, is it some hokey thing that, this thing, I don't know. And I realized, no, it's not. Meditation is amazing. Meditation is about clearing space in your mind. It's like a nap for the brain. And so when you can just return to your breath, you're like, and you recognize you're present. You say, breathing in. I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I am breathing out. I can feel my body. I know that I'm here in this present moment. It's a good moment. And then in your mind, you recognize the thoughts that are coming in your head. And they're like torpedoes sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And then you're saying, oh, hi, I see you. Or emotions. Oh, I'm feeling this emotion right now. I'm feeling agitation, or I'm feeling really bugged, or I'm angry, or I'm sad. And you recognize it, and you embrace it. You say, hi, make friends with it. Technolon says that you treat it like a baby. If a baby was crying and the pin was sticking on his leg from the diaper, or, he was in pain, you wouldn't be like, no. I'm not want to listen to
go watch Netflix.
Yeah, I'm going to run. I'm going to run to the next thing. No, you would be like, I see you. Come here. I love you. What's going on? And that's like really about loving yourself and saying, okay, so in meditation, I do that. Or why do I think that thought? Or why do I keep thinking like that? So it's a mindfulness practice. And then, and then you make some space. So I always imagine just going, like I'm creating this circle of space where I can just be there. And I can just be resting in me. And I can be home in me. And that is really, really interesting, because then I can heal and I can say, I'm not well. Something just keeps coming up and I need help. But what's so beautiful about it is a Buddhist monk that I'll talk about when I talk about the retreat. He said that mindfulness is synonymous to my thinking of feeling the Spirit, feeling the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, I really like when I interviewed Carl, I asked him, what's the difference between praying and meditating?
Yeah.
And he said, well, prayer is like you speaking to God, and meditation is God speaking back to you.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that quiet, the peacefulness. The Bible talks about the spirit being quiet and peaceful. And if you're running around all day with hectic, you're not going to be able to listen to that. And so these line up perfectly in my point of view, that, meditation is being peaceful, being quiet, so you can listen to what God or the universe or whatever your belief system is speaking to you, and what your life, where you need to go in life, or what problems you need to go through.
Yeah. And meditation isn't just sitting, like a yogi, right? With your legs like that. I mean, my knees are bad. I can't even really sit like that, right?
I can't do that either.
So you don't need to look like it, right? But what meditation can also be not just sitting and breathing and creating that space in your mind, but it can also be walking meditation, walking slowly, going on a hike, listening to the breeze, breathing and noticing the trees and noticing the little bug on the leaf. It's really opening yourself up to stop and to listen and to be mindful. I get those moments at church too, when I'm taking out the sacrament, when I'm listening to a child share their feelings. It's that feeling, that's mindfulness, where you're just really connecting to life. Also eating is a meditation. It's amazing when you open up that eating meditation. We can talk a little more later about that, but there's a lot of ways that we can open ourselves up to feeling the Spirit, and that's through mindfulness and connecting. So,
yeah, I love that you said, you Googled Utah Buddhism, because that's exactly what I did, and how actually I met Carl, and then I heard your story. You were, I think, the bellmaster that day that I came in to the Awakening Valley Sangha. And so, we kind of got to the same place through a Google search, I guess.
yeah.
And my motivation was kind of the same too, where I'd kind of done some meditation myself, and I've always taken some time to think a little bit, and even if it's only 5-10 minutes in the morning, just to go outside in the sunlight and do a few yoga poses and stretch and stuff, and take a few minutes to start the day calmly at least. And so I was kind of the same way. I'm like, well, I never really learned exactly what meditation is. And so I actually started up at the Salt Lake one. They have a weekly meditation up there on Wednesday nights. And so I went up there on Wednesday and did a meditation. Adrian and I both went up there. And then I found the one in Provo, and I was like, well, I want to see what the actual service is like on the Sunday. So it's kind of cool that we had that same motivation to understand the meditation.
We're both on a journey, right? Yeah. We're open to learn. We don't have to be afraid. I think that's one of the things that happens sometimes in any culture, but like LDS or no matter what religion or whether beliefs you have, is there's this fear that you're going to be crossing over into another one.
Stigmatized, right? Yeah.
Or that, what are people going to think of me? Mm-hmm. Or what do they think? And that's the thing, is that this life is about transformation. We were at the Sangha, and there was a lady who shared, and she shared from her heart, but she said she was going through a faith crisis, and she really was struggling with some of the things in the LDS church that she felt like, that she doesn't know she agrees with anymore, and she felt really distraught by that. And afterwards, we had a really great connect, and I asked her about that. I said, "Tell me a little more about this faith crisis you're having." And she's like, well, the predominant faith. And she had a hard time. She didn't want to really come out and say, that it was the LDS. And I knew I knew what was going on. And I said, and she said, I just feel, that I just feel really bad that, I don't feel this. And I said, well, maybe you're going through a faith transformation. Maybe you're opening up to learning and to also challenging some of the things that you had always been taught, but you want to understand deeper. It's okay. It's good. Right, actually, it's what God wants. He wants us to ask questions. He wants us to learn. He wants us to explore. And we all are on this journey. And no matter who you are, no matter how learned you think you are, you're on a journey of learning and opening. And the more open and the more you seek to have that understanding with him, the more he'll open and share with you. And it's all over the scriptures. So we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to put anybody in the box. We don't need to put ourselves in the box. We don't need to put anybody else in the box. Like, I'm right, you're wrong. There's truth everywhere, and it's beautiful, and it will bless us.
Yeah, I love this. And I brought this up with Carl, but one of my biggest pet peeves is in politics that, no matter what side you're on, not being able to at least have a conversation and to understand the other person's point of view, right? It's like you were just saying, putting people in a box and right and wrong, and you see all this bickering. And I'm not too old, but from what I've heard, it didn't used to be like that with senators. They'd go over to dinner with each other and talk about things, and then at least not as publicly, polarized. And so I think we've really gone to the polarization a little too far and not understanding each other. So,
well, I think it creates a lot of anxiety.
That too.
And that's where we're having a real epidemic, right? And is this anxiety problem. My husband's a seminary teacher, and, that's a huge problem with youth, is just the anxiety that they feel. I mean, I know it's in adults too. It's in all of us. And we need to take care of that. I mean, that's going to kill us, and it's going to destroy families. It's going to hurt so much. And we don't need to do that. So recognizing those habit energies, those thoughts that are coming up, and making a decision, I'm going to be present. Like washing the dishes, I am washing my dishes right now. I am looking at the pot. It's just that it gets that simple.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my dish and I'm washing this dish. I'm having a moment and I'm here. I'm present. I mean, really, that's the only thing, right? It's our conscious. My consciousness that I'm here speaking with you, right? And so when you can be present, and I think that's why when you're with a best friend or you're with your children, right? And you're listening to them and looking at them, you're having this incredible moment because you're present in that moment, or you're up on a hike or whatever it is that brings that to you. It's because you're living in the present moment.
Yeah, you're not worried about the past, and you're not looking
you're
at
not
the
jumping
future,
in the future,
right?
right? You're not solving a problem out somewhere else. You're here. And that's what Technolon teaches is I'm here now. And I'm here now. And I'm here. It's this thing, right?
Don't worry, because you're here.
Yeah.
You've got this moment.
And it's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. So if anybody is listening, anybody who's trying to put this to a test, it's hard. So there's little tips and little tricks that, Technolon offers. He says, when you're at a stoplight, return to your breath. Say, I am here. I'm in this car. I'm at the stoplight, right? Or when your phone goes off, use that as they call it the bell of mindfulness. It's bringing you back to the present. So you're taking that mind of yours and you're saying, I am the master here. There's a really great story, old Buddhist story of this man who's riding along on this horse. And there were these people working on a field, and they see this man running around the horse, and he yells out and he goes, "Hey, where are you going?" And then the man on the horse says, "I don't know, ask the horse." And so that's how that story really resonated with me. I was like, yeah.
I think it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, we're just on this horse and it's taking us wherever we might not want to go where it's taking us, but we're just holding on.
Yeah. And then you see your marriage failing, and then you see your children struggling, and you're feeling like you want to just grab it, right? Control it. You don't know how to save it, right? And I have personal experience with that. 12 years into my marriage, my husband and I divorced each other. It was horribly hard. It was the worst. 5 children. So I was a single mom. That's what moved us from Tucson to Utah. And I couldn't hold it anymore. And I was acting out and I was thinking out unbeneficially. I was not well. And I knew that I needed to figure something out. The way the story goes, and its continuing story, right, is that 6 months after we were divorced, we remarried each other. And maybe some people would say, they just maybe said, oh, that was a mistake. No, it was really, really hard. And it was something we were going through. And I knew that going back in would be really hard. And so we went to marriage counseling. We worked really hard. And so we've been remarried. In May, it'll be 7 years that we've been remarried.
Congratulations. Yeah.
We don't count the 6.
That's awesome.
It was important to us, but we still say we were married, almost married 25 years. But really hard, especially in an LDS culture. My husband's a seminary teacher.
And especially with 5 kids.
And 5 kids, and having that responsibility. Talk about feeling bad, right? Like, I failed. I have failed. I can't do this. I can't hold everything, and I'm not well. And so that was a time where I wasn't well. And then in October, I was starting to become not well again. And so I'm so thankful that God has given me this journey to learn Buddhism, because it's helping me look within myself and love myself. You had someone on here, his name's Carl Harmon, who is one of my Sangha brothers. Like, I love him. And he sent me a little note that said, take all of the energy that you have for loving others and now give it to yourself. Wow. So I can actually love myself like I've loved other people and tried to help them. Yeah, it's actually really important. It's the only way that we can be healthy is if we take care of ourselves.
And I think that's the piece that we sometimes miss, right? If we're trying to serve or, help other people that we see as having bigger problems than ourselves. If we don't take the time to do the same for ourselves, then we're not going to be able to help those people. So it's a big cycle, right? It's a circle, and we all need that time.
And we're kind of raised in a way, because I was, that doing something for yourself or loving yourself in that way is selfish.
Selfish. You kind of feel guilty about it. Like, I took an hour to decompress.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could have done this, and this.
Look, all the stuff I missed, right? I missed this, I missed that. And so I went to the retreat of learning how to noble silence, which is really interesting in Buddhism.
So before you get to the retreat, how did you hear about the retreat, and what made you decide on the retreat versus Hawaii?
So in December, I learned that I would be making another really hard transition, and I wasn't going to be the pantry manager anymore. That was really, really painful for me to accept that is actually what I have to do, because I had grown such an identity to it. Right.
You were there from the beginning.
I was there for 4 years and had grown it. It was my baby. It actually become part of me. And I ended up being kind of codependent on it. Like, it was everything in my world. It was like as codependent as I feel sometimes as my title as mother, right? Of my beautiful family. And so it was just everything with me.
It was part of your identity.
Yeah, it's part of my identity. And through the Sangha meetings, I started really feeling the Spirit say, you aren't what you do, you are what you are. And so I had to really look inwardly and say, who am I? I'm a loving, caring person. I am a pantry manager, but I love and care about people, and I've done it before I was even that. So we always have to be careful. In Buddhism, it's really beautiful because they say we are not ourself. We're not our titles. We're not our face. We're not our accomplishments.
Yeah, I love that. And that's big in our world today, right? Well, what do you do?
Yeah,
instead of asking,
right?
Well, who are you?
Yeah.
What are your values?
And I noticed I would always start with that. Oh, I do this. Or, or before, right? Oh, I'm this or that. So we need to really work on taking out those titles and really just stripping ourselves of that, because really, what are we? I believe I'm a daughter of God. I believe that I am of worth. I believe I've got those worthy things because I am, not because of what I have done. And so we got to be careful with that codependency that we create with what we've been a part of.
Yeah, I think I just had an epiphany moment. I think I'm going to start, when people ask me, what do you do? I'm going to say, well, I'm a lifelong learner.
Yes, I'm a student.
I'm a student of life.
Yes, that's kind of what maybe we should have put my title rather than Latter-day Saint. Buddhist is lifelong learner, but that always sounds a little like you just don't know how to say that, right? But yeah, so anyway, it got to a place where I realized I was going to transition from the pantry, and I was so devastatedly sad because I love my clients, and I love my volunteers, and I love the work, and I love the founders. I loved everything. But I knew that it was time. And so help finding a replacement, just being there patiently until my last day was February 20th. I knew that it was going to be my last day at the pantry, and I was going to have to separate and let go. Which the letting go thing is always a challenge.
Yeah, something you've worked hard on for 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you found you needed some kind of transition to get back into regular life? Is that what?
Yeah, well, I was kind of like, now what? What's my next mission? What's my next calling? And what am I going to do now? Because, my habit energy is still going, right? And so I thought, well, I love, I really want to be part of helping relieve the suffering still, right? But I was like, okay, what's my next thing? And I just kept getting this feeling, this impression that said, just wait, just calm, just rest, just listen. And so I was like, I got to go somewhere. And that's where I was like, I want to go to Hawaii, or I love to travel. So I'm like, maybe I'll go on a break, or I'll go do something. And my second daughter was serving a mission in Argentina. And so I'd been saving to go to Argentina to get her, which changed, from the COVID thing a month and a half later. So I thought, well, I've got a little more extra money saved there. I could go somewhere. And then as I was just praying about it and pondering it, I remembered my Sangha talking about a retreat, a 5-day retreat in Escondido, California, called Deer Park. And Buddha had different monasteries, and his first monastery was a monastery called Deer Park. So they call it Deer Park Monastery. And I thought, God, that's interesting. I'd seen the movie, Eat, Pray, Love. I'd seen all this cool stuff. Like, that looked really interesting to me, and yet scary, because that would mean that I would have to learn how to stop and start looking deeply within myself. And so, but I was like, I think that'd be better, more beneficial than Hawaii, maybe. I don't know. I've still never been to Hawaii, so maybe Hawaii would have been just as beautiful. But.
Is it a technology retreat too, where you have no cell phone service or anything?
It's encouraged to not have your phone, and so the first night of the retreat, I'm like on my phone when I got to the bed, and then it was buzzing all night, and I ended up turning off my phone, just the sound, and I realized how much peace it brought me. And it's still off, like the sound is still off. I can choose when I want to look at my phone now. Mm-hmm. But you realize how attached you are to all of this stuff that is constantly screaming at you. But it was interesting because, so I had a week off. I had a week between the last day and then the retreat. And then I spent some time with my kids, and, we went down for my little niece's baptism, and down in Arizona and stuff like that. So it was really nice. It was nice to be able to have that little break.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm driving early in the morning to Escondido, and I was so agitated. I felt so much anxiety,
second guessing yourself.
Yeah, why am I doing this? Yeah. This is crazy. I don't feel calm. So why am I going to a place when I don't feel calm?
That's supposed to make me calm. And
aren't I supposed to be somewhat calm before I go into a place like this? So I remember I was just full blast playing all of my favorite Portland, because I lived in Portland for a long time, Portland grunge music. Nirvana and all these, songs about, and they all talk about, their drug addictions and stuff, So I'm like, I love the music, and I'm singing too aloud, and I was kind of laughing at myself, going, what is my problem? And then when I get into
venting,
yeah, and then I was getting into California, and then I'm like, oh, do I have the right outfit? I want to go shopping. How ridiculous! And I'm like, so I stop at, I go to Barnes and Noble to go get this book that I want to learn, and then I go to to a clothing store, and I'm shopping, and I'm trying to get the outfit, or I get these earrings I want to look cute in, and I'm thinking, okay, I know this is wrong too, because I'm thinking about what I look like on the outside.
They don't even wear earrings.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. It was really weird. It was almost like I was detoxing or something from all this emotion or this feeling in there. And I was really nervous. So I went in. There was a window that you could go in between 2 and 5. I went at 4:45. And, you park in there, and, it's very peaceful. It's in the foothills of Escondido. And there's a sign that says, breathe, you've arrived. And I'm like, okay.
Breath.
Is this how it's going to feel like when I die and I'm going into, the presence of God?
The gates of heaven.
Yeah, the gates of heaven. You have arrived, Anyways, we park, and it was really funny because I had packed so much stuff. I had packed so many clothes, so much stuff. And I see these people getting in their cars in just a small carrying backpack. And I had a suitcase. And I was like...
This is a week long.
I was embarrassed. Right? Yeah, I was like, dang. So I'm taking stuff out of my bag so that it didn't look like I was so messed up.
Yeah.
It really was like that. And then so the monks are awesome. They asked me if I would like help bringing my suitcase up, because I could see it's this big one with wheels. And I knew it was so uncool. And so anyway, but at that point I was worried about looking cool, I guess. And so, we go into the place where I'm going to rest. And I just, it's like a layers, you just start feeling yourself kind of melting, and, opening these layers of I don't need to worry about that, or it doesn't matter. So you start realizing what matters, and you start listening and start feeling silent. And you see these monks and these nuns, and you're like, how do you do that? You know, like,
you can kind of feel their energy, that they're just peace and
they're loving,
love,
and they're kind, and they don't judge you. And you're judging yourself like crazy. You know, you're your own worst enemy. And
so was that kind of the first thing you felt as you went? Describe kind of the scene for us as you went into this place. I'm really curious what it looks like, and you know, how many people were there. How they interacted.
So if you've
with
ever
you?
gone to like a youth conference or a girls' camp or some sort of a camp, it's like that. You know, it's got you've got an area where people can pitch a tent and they can sleep in tents, which is cool. And I would have done that if I'd known about that, because it's great. And then you've got little cabins. So I shared a little cabin with bunk beds with five other women, you know, that are just as in the journey as I am.
So is this pretty small, like maybe 12 by 12 or something?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just bunk beds. There's probably like 3 sets of bunk beds with a bathroom.
Okay.
You know, and
so very modest.
Very, very modest. Mm-hmm. You know, California is gorgeous anyway. So you've got the birds and you have the beautiful vegetation. And then they've got like a little Iroquois pond. But what was really interesting to me was that when I went in, I expected to see a lot of Buddha statues. You know, because it's sort of what I thought Buddhists do, is they have their statues and their incense and they're doing all that. No Buddha statues. They have a little grove of maybe like 5 or 6 Buddha statues in a grove, which is very beautiful, very peaceful. But other than that, no. And it's on purpose. Thich Nhat Hanh said, I want people who come here to feel that they're accepted no matter what their beliefs are and what their backgrounds are. So I was so thankful to that. I liked that because it didn't give me space for separation in any way.
And very inclusive.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when I went to the Sangha as well, that, you know, you have these, they had a little cup where you could get some tea, and, you know, they had the mats out there that you could grab. And what I really liked is they had the books with the chants on them for the people that were new. And I was like, oh, this is great. You know, they're welcoming all these new people and expecting them as well. So.
Yeah, it was very, very loving. The spirit's there. The loving energy is there. And, you know, and I was with about 50 people that were there, from attorneys to, you know, retirees to, all kinds of different people and all different backgrounds. The first day was really, you know, it was called Earth Holders Retreat. I had no idea what Earth Holders was. I didn't even know what that meant. And so when we went in, I started realizing, oh, it's about Mother Earth, about taking care of Earth. Okay, I like the Earth. This is going to be good. But I continually had these questions. What's my mission? What's my calling? How can I solve these problems that I care deeply about? What am I going to?
You had your own agenda.
Yeah, like what am I going to do? And so I was putting those intentions out there, right? And I was praying about it. And how can I calm down? How can I feel peace? You know, all these things. And how can I let go of the food pantry? How can I be okay about this transition?
I'm sure you were thinking about your next step in life in general, right? Just, what am I going to do?
And also worrying about the people I wasn't going to be there to help. My clients that I would listen to every day, that I loved so much that I wasn't going to be with them anymore. And I felt that separation, and I hated that feeling. You know, I want to be there. So the first night was when we eat at the retreat, you eat in noble silence, which means you don't talk. That made me really nervous.
Yeah, Carl was explaining that a little bit. I'm really interested in this because I went through a health journey last year, and I'm trying to incorporate some of these mindful eating practices. And when he told me, actually, first I read it in Thich Nhat Hanh's book about sometimes the monk chew their food 30 times. And I was like, how am I going to get through my meal if I'm, it's going to take an hour or two to get through a meal. And so, I was really interested in that. And Carl was saying the same thing, that, they eat in silence. Some of them close their eyes, and, you don't have those distractions of television or whatever else is going on in your house. So yeah, talk a little bit about that and what you learned from there.
Well, I loved it so much, and it was such an amazing spiritual experience for me that at the bookstore I had these little books that my Buddhist monk friend Brother Faplai, who I'll meet the next day, who's been a real influence for me. He told me about these books. And so did somebody in our Sangha, in our little group that we were meeting together. She actually is the one that told me about these books. But there's a book here that says How to Eat.
I think we probably all need to read that, especially here in America where we're chowing down food as fast as we can.
And then there's the other two that I thought was interesting is called How to Fight. And then another one is here, How to Love. But the How to Eat has been really powerful because... these are cute little books that are helpful for if you want to teach this to your family, which was the challenge when I got home, but I was going to teach my kids this. It's been amazing and challenging too. But what you do is when you serve your food, right, you can feel the energy of the people around you. You can, I don't know, there's just something about it. When you're quiet, when you're silent, even try that within your families, you can feel this gratitude or this energy of the spirit there. And so when you have your food before you, what we did is we, bow to the people that were with us, because that's also important when you're eating with others, you can recognize them being there with you and that you're all enjoying this moment together, and then you sit and you kind of look at your food and you realize and you look deeply at your food. You say, you know what? I'm not just seeing an orange. I'm seeing sunlight. I'm seeing the rain. I'm seeing the earth. Like there's so many elements to your food, right? And then when you're eating the food, like I love old-fashioned oatmeal even more now because that's the breakfast we had every morning. And so when I cook it, I feel like I'm there a little bit.
Association, right?
Yeah. And then when you're eating your oatmeal, you're saying, you feel it nourishing your body and you can feel gratitude for that. This is giving me nourishment to do the things that I'm here to do, to be who I want to be, to live, and then you feel that gratitude of what the earth has provided so that you can have another day.
And that connection between the earth, right?
Yeah.
That you're not just going to the supermarket or to the fast food place, that, there's actually something living that's providing you this nourishment, whether it be a plant or an animal.
Yeah, and the people that have worked hard to do it.
Yeah, right.
So when you drink your tea, how many people worked on that? When you eat your rice, how many people have worked and picked every bit of those rice kernels? Like the love and the work that's gone on, the bread making, the process it's been through. It also helps you eat healthy, natural food, right? And a Cheeto is harder for me to look mindfully at my Cheeto.
Taste these chemicals.
Even though I like them,
Yep.
But it's really a beautiful meditation to learn that eating meditation. It helps bring a lot of awareness and also gratitude. You can feel gratitude to God or, the cosmos. The Buddhists have different words for what I would call God. It's like the cosmos or the divine source or, just whatever universe, whatever we call the energy that we feel, you can feel that and you can feel gratitude for your life through eating.
So how long were the eating periods? I'm curious. Like how long were they like an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you watched everybody eat. And that was fun for me. I love people watching. So I just was really interested in the way
when you were done or during
just while I'm eating, you're chewing.
Yeah.
And they say, you put the spoonful of food and you put your spoon down, right? And then you eat it, you taste it. You really are mindful about this moment of eating, which is very different than the, eat on the go, fast food in the car kind of a thing where you don't even realize you ate your food.
Yeah, I've been trying to do this a little bit too. And the other day I tried it with a strawberry.
Yeah.
And I put a strawberry and tried to, let it kind of melt in my mouth and feel it. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of seeds in a strawberry. I didn't even know strawberries had seeds, They have these really tiny ones on those. And it's like, well, I can really feel these now.
How was that? How was that moment?
It was good because, it's the same thing where I'm recognizing that there's a lot more to a strawberry than a strawberry and that, the sunlight that's gone into it and the water and all that stuff. And I think it has health benefits as well because, when you slow down your eating, you're not going to eat as much. And so you're not going to overeat.
Can you imagine what it would be like if we took that mindfulness in that strawberry and we applied it to a person, right? Like in loving and caring about someone, listening, deep meditation with them. Like, Technolon talks a lot about how much we can relieve suffering by just listening. I mean, we're getting these great endorphins by having this conversation right now, because you're listening to me, I'm listening to you, and we're adding to that. If we could treat others as humans and as care, we have compassion and understanding to others rather than an object, what's in our way. It's so easy to do that. We get to this place where we're like, so I'm going to my next thing. Mm-hmm. You're in my way. Get out.
Focused on your own agenda, not being in the present. Yeah.
Carl says that he loves to challenge himself by going to Walmart, on a Saturday afternoon to
waiting in the line.
Create mindfulness, right? To really care and look at the people. Mm-hmm. And so challenging ourselves in whatever would be challenging and saying, I'm really going to look deeply at this. Or someone that I was just listening to the book this morning a little bit, and it says maybe what we need to do also is, go have a conversation with someone that's difficult for you to listen to. That mm-hmm. can be a real challenge.
Yeah, I remember Carl saying that same thing. Yeah. Like, how do we understand the other person's point of view? I think was the question there. And he said, well, go have a conversation with someone that you disagree with and then really listen. Like, how do we understand someone better or develop our own listening skills? Yeah. I think that's a great way. Obviously, it's hard to do and it's a little intimidating to even think about. But
so sometimes I've had definitely moments with my spouse, right? Bless his heart, where I've been like, I've got to be mindful in this because, especially with the history of having gone through divorce and just having these things, we definitely will go off in our stories or, we'll start feeling or emotions will start coming up. And so we work really hard. I work really hard. And I know he does too, to practice mindful listening and mindful talking so that I'm not off on my stories about him or this or
I'm bringing up something from the past.
Yeah.
It's not relevant.
Oh yeah. And it's constantly wanting to mm-hmm. sabotage. So Technolon has this really wonderful thing, and we practiced this in the retreat too. I know you want to talk more about the retreat, but it was darling, I see you. Right? I see you. Darling, I know you are there and I'm here for you. Right? And then there's another part that says, darling, I know you're suffering. I want to serve you some way. And then there's another really hard part that I've been practicing a lot since the retreat. And it's, darling, and this is the darling that maybe was causing some of the suffering, right? But you're like, darling, I see you and I am suffering. Can you help me? And going to that vulnerability place where you're like, can you help me? I've actually had to be very obvious about it with him and say, sweetheart, I'm having a struggle. These are the feelings I'm feeling right now. Can you help me? And then it's really amazing because I see him being like, oh yeah, hon, I can, talk to me about that more. Or yeah, I'm here. I want to help you. If he wasn't, then hopefully he'd say, I can't be there for you right now, and then you would know. But rather than isolate yourself mm-hmm. or, in any way, even if you don't have a spouse that you're trying to work this out, but rather than saying, no one cares about me, I'm alone, I'm so lonely, actually opening yourself out to getting help. So that was my problem when I went to the retreat is, so I've always suffered with loneliness. And I think that it's a habit. I think it's from my ancestors. I've analyzed it. I'm like, why do I get that? Because I know I've got people who love me. I know I've got a lot of blessings in my life.
And people you're serving.
People I'm serving.
At the food pantry.
Yeah.
Like,
why do I still feel lonely?
Yeah.
So that was my question too, going into the retreat. How can I relieve that suffering? I know that I feel it. And so the answer is not what I thought it would be. Do you want to hear the answer I got?
Yes,
do
I
you
do,
wanna
but
wait?
let's table it just a minute. So I want to go back to the point you brought up about expressing your vulnerableness, and this goes back to right to the beginning, that where we were talking about, women kind of feel like they have to be that perfect mom or that perfect husband or wife for your husband, and what are some techniques that our viewers could do to transition from that kind of that Facebook, everything's great mentality, this is what I'm going to share on Facebook, to the reality of what's going on in your life and how you can kind of ask for that help or, share that with somebody else?
I kind of understood it or started learning more about this when I was going through my divorce. I have one of my very good friends. I was telling her how I just feel so awful and this pain that I'm going through. And she goes, well, it's where you're at. And I was like, wow. So I wrote it down and I have it on my board in my office. And it's where I'm at. So I think that you've got to get to a very honest place with yourself, right? Kind of like how I felt in December. I'm like, I'm not well. Like, this is where I'm at, though. Like, I can't be anything more than that. I can't be what other people perceive me to be. This is just where I'm at. So once you have a starting spot, once you know where you're at, then you can start the journey to say, okay, open yourself up. Okay, Heavenly Father, or whatever you believe in, or however you believe, I need help because this is where I'm at.
You stop the denial, right? That's the
for
first
yourself.
step. Yeah, you stop your self-denial.
Right? Like, you can con everybody. You can make everybody believe that you're this or that. But it's you. You're born alone into this world. You will die alone out of this world. And all the things that you get, your family, your friends, love, the experiences, are all gifts for your life. And, we're big blessings that you hope will continue. But you are between you and God. I need to be honest with me, right? And I need to stop running from this that I'm feeling.
So once you get to that point, have you found that your friends and family and those that you've talked to have been open when you've explained that to them, like where you're at?
It can be hard for them.
Or,
sometimes no.
No.
Sometimes I had a lady tell me that my life has been really hard on her because she thought that I was this, but I'm struggling in that. I've had that happen a few times.
So she thinks you were kind of
like,
I'm false hurting. Impression.
Yeah, I'm hurting you. You're hurting me by your life not being what I thought.
What I expected it to be.
And that's always
doesn't
really
make a lot of sense.
That happens. Women, we do that for each other.
Okay.
And then we feel a responsibility that I got to be this so that I don't hurt, so that I can make sure your life's.
I got to be strong so that
right.
this person doesn't suffer.
Yeah, and I'm the oldest of 6. My mom in all her goodness and lovingness wanted really set me as an example, right? So when I was struggling, she had made a comment that said, sweetheart, this is really hard on you're going to be really hard on your siblings, or this is really hard on this because you've always been the blah, 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 the strength, the good one, the obedient one. And so you just as I had put other titles on me, I'd put, I'm obedient, I'm righteous, I'm good. And so
those expectations were in the back of your head.
Yeah. And so then when I was failing in those, like when I had made mistakes or I was not that persona that I had created in that, it was hard on my mom, it was hard on my friends, and it was hard on me. But it's the only way to heal is to have recognition.
And that, I think that this is a good transition point into the ego, right? So this was your identity and your ego that, I do these things and, I'm never going to get divorced and, I'm going to be this kind of mom and this kind of, a spouse. And so I want to go back to your loneliness comment. Maybe that ties into this a little bit too, but I'd like to know what you learned about ego and identity at the retreat and maybe how that tied into your loneliness and being connected with others. So there's a lot of stuff in there, but feel free.
Yeah, it's good. So, when we could talk, when we did get to talk, people would ask me, so what do you do? Right? Because it's always the first thing, what do you do? Oh, I was a pantry, and I had to say I was, right? I was the pantry manager, and I did this, and I've been doing this and that. And as the more that I explained that, the more it felt just not comfortable for me.
Artificial.
Yeah, I am those things, but in my little Dharma group, one of the members there was a monk, and his name is Brother Faplai, and you can look up his Dharma talks on YouTube, and he's wonderful. And he's from England, and he was just visiting from France. Plum Village is another monastery. Then he was just visiting for a few months, and so I was very, very fortunate to be able to connect with him. And I had written all these things that I thought I had learned. I am not this. I am not my face. I am not these things. And I just wrote a list of nots. And I thought, man, I just had enlightenment. I am not my titles. I'm not these things. This is really helpful to me. And I showed it to him. And then he goes, oh, you are those things. And I'm like, what?
Totally opposite what I just learned.
I'm like, what? I thought I was, learning. And he goes, you are those things and so much more. You are everything. And that really resonated, because that is exactly what Christ teaches me too. Like, we are all things. We are our capacity, our and my body is the minerals, and it was created from the earth, and it'll go back to the earth, and I will decompose back into the earth, and I will continue. And I believe in a spirit, I believe in a soul, I believe in what I believe in, but I'll continue to grow, to learn in some form. I will. And so that was really beautiful. So that helped me a lot with the loneliness problem, because the answer I got from this Earth Holders retreat was that the earth has got me. My network has got me. My everything has me. I am not alone. I am not disconnected or separate. And the only reason why we feel a loneliness is because we're isolating ourselves from the elements. We're isolating ourselves from people, from family, and we are choosing to be alone. And so I made a promise to myself at the retreat that anytime I have loneliness come up, it comes up still, it's because I am not having right thinking. I am disconnecting myself from this incredible interconnection that we all are in, right? We're learning this through COVID-19, that the actions of this has resulted in the whole world having to make changes and having to make change. The earth, we're seeing the earth changing because of the actions of me, the actions of you. And so we are all interconnected. And that was a beautiful feeling.
It's really brought that to light, just how social we really are, right? And how much of a tribe we are, and different tribes we have, and how much we depend on each other, and for everything, really, for services and for just having a conversation, being close to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's really brought that up, that we're definitely not alone, and there's a lot of interconnectedness going on.
So do I need to solve world hunger? No. Can I be part of the mission to solve world hunger? Yes. Do I need to solve drug addiction? No. But can I be part of the help of the network in helping people in their drug addiction? Yes. And so, and it's never where I always thought I'm the only one. It's not like that, but I think just you have to have that mindfulness and that recognition that you're part of something great, right? We are all here figuring this out. I always imagine that we're in a petri dish, right? And like God's just kind of looking at us and saying, "This is interesting. I want them to figure this. I want them to learn from each other." I feel like that about my church. I feel like he gives us the gospel and gives us doctrines and things like that, and then he says, "Okay, I would like you guys to work this out. And I want you to figure this out. And I want you to be nice and to work it out. But you're going to learn some things as you're as you're learning, as you're going and suffering, and as you're going through the pains of it, and it all matters to him, but it doesn't. It's
and I'm
okay.
not going to give you all the answers, right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Work
right?
it out.
Yeah, it's like we're here to learn and go through the experiences, and you look at Christ's experience, right? It wasn't just this perfect, like everything was great the whole time, right? He went through all those sufferings, and so
I know.
There's a lot of commonalities between Buddhism and Christian and suffering, and that type of thing. So
yeah, I love it. There's so many connections that I've made. That are just connecting some of these dots in there. And, I have my personal feelings about who I think Buddha, who Buddha was, and how Buddha plays into, prophets, disciples, just truths. I mean, there's so much truth and there's so much goodness. And the way that it's interpreted, the way he might have interpreted one thing in the Buddha, like, I don't know, just different things. It's just maybe it has a different name for the way that I have been taught, and I just need to see the spirit of it and not,
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, just, going from the law of Moses to when Christ came and said, you don't need to walk so many steps and slaughter this animal at this certain time of day. It's the spirit of the law, not the actual physical motions that we're going through.
And I think Buddhism helps us look into ourselves. It's to really, it's called Buddhist psychology, right? Or Buddhist practice. Is to really just learn to stop, recognize the feelings that are coming up, and then take care of them, and then make peace with it, and, and rest. So resting was hard. Those 5 days at the retreat, they were hard. I felt it was hard. But every day it got a little easier, and the people, you felt more loved from them. You felt love for them. And the Dharma talks, they had these talks where you'd go into a big meditation hall and you sit on a cushion and you'd listen to these wonderful monks and nuns that have dedicated their lives to helping to teach how mindfulness and meditation to us. And so you're like, wow, they have a lot. They're really, really working on honing in on this resting piece and on this mindfulness piece. And then you've got the Buddha, some of the Buddhist things, like, I don't know. And so I'm learning, so I don't even want to quote anything because I don't really
just take us through like a typical day at the retreat, I'm sure they were different, but just a little bit about how the day started and what was in the middle of the day.
So I think it was at 6 or 6:30 a.m. was the meditation. So
a group meditation?
Yep. All of 50 people in the meditation, all invitation, right? And so you go in and you have a 20-minute silent meditation. Now that is amazing. That is a powerful feeling to be silent. Of course, you hear the coughs and you hear someone's water bottle falling over or someone's phone accidentally going off. You hear all the little background noise, but mostly it's silent. And you're just breathing with all these beautiful people, in meditation. And they have a big bell. So they ring the bell.
Like the Tibetan bell.
Yeah, bell of mindfulness. And you breathe in and you breathe out. And then you work on that thoughts, right? You work on that space and, you just feel that gratitude and really the spirit really comes in. You really feel the energy of all these wonderful hearts and people who are trying. And you feel so much love. And, and so that's the meditation. And then after that, they do a little exercise. And the exercise is soft and simple. They have a little Tai Chi, so you can go into little sections. You can go and do Tai Chi, which Tai Chi is amazing. And, we've been talking about this earlier. I've always was really into triathlons and, cardio and, kickboxing and all that stuff, which is really fun still. But, man, the Western world really, or the East, whatever that is, right down there, Asians, that area, Eastern, really understands about body movement and how to use exercise as a meditation. So it's not just for your body, but it's for your mind too. And then they had this little bamboo sticks exercise that I didn't do, but they had a walking. So we just walk, not talking. So it was very simple, very slow, very careful. It was awesome.
How do you think that helped you get past your identity of being a food pantry manager and transition into your next part of your life?
Well, because I was part of the collective. I was, I was me. I was a me. I was a human that was listening, that was learning, that was eating.
Back to the basics.
There was
right?
no expectations on me at that moment. The only expectations would be on myself. I started really not caring, if I had put on my eyeliner that morning or something, I was like, okay, I'm not really a self. I'm just going to be part of this. Like a mountain isn't a mountain. A mountain is part of, trees and rocks, and everything makes the mountain. And so what am I? I'm not a mountain. I'm everything. And I've got all these parts in me. And so the same thing with the collective, with the Sangha. We're all part of a body as a whole.
Yeah, I love that. And with my health journey, I keep going back to kind of the ancestral diet. Mm-hmm. We've got all these processed food companies. We had agriculture really heavily influence, the food that we eat. And it seems like a similar parallel here where, instead of job titles and what we do, we go back to who we actually are and being in touch with nature and with what's around us. And that can apply to the food too, as well, like we've talked about. And, you hear about the Native Americans and how they had such reverence for the buffalo that they ate and always kind of performed this ceremony. Mm-hmm. And so I really see these themes kind of coming together that, these things have been taught to us thousands of years ago, and we've kind of lost them in the industrialized and technological age. So
yeah, just stillness.
Back to the ancestors, like you said, our ancestors knew all this stuff, and we're finally going back to some of that.
There's a scripture that comes up to my mind all the time, something that Christ said. It says, "Be still and know that I am." When we can stop and be still, and we can love ourselves enough to rest, and it doesn't mean we don't work anymore, or we don't taking care of our children, or we're not doing our stuff, right? But there's that you can be still in everything that you do, right? You can watch your thinking and the way that you are talking to yourself. I have told myself that I am fat, or that I am balding, or that I am ugly so many times. That thought, or I'm losing my mind. I have said that so many times. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. And I remember at one point I said, okay, if I keep saying that I'm losing my mind, I really probably am going to lose my mind. Like, it's an exception.
You're foreseeing.
Yeah, I'm accepting that in me. I'm taking that. So there's been a lot of changes in this. So when I got back from the retreat, because around the retreat, in the mirror, on everything, there's these little signs, right? So when you go into the retreat, you have these little things in the Dharma, so like there's the breathe, and Technolon, he learned how to write these out, so they're all over, they're throughout. In the meditation hall, in a big, beautiful piece of wood, is this. This is it.
I love it.
It's awesome. Okay. So when I went home after this retreat, being so mindful of everything, I printed up all these little sayings, and they're all over, like on my mirror. And so my kids have to read them, or they look at them. And this is on my fridge. When you take what you need, nature agrees to give. So these little things that just help us be mindful, of that we are alive, and that we are sharing this life with the world, with each other. So those were really good little sayings. And in Buddhism, there's a lot of gathas. So when we were at the retreat, we would chant. We'd say these little gathas. Can I share one?
What's a gatha at first?
Gata's like a
divine that is?
little,
Like a chant?
like
or?
a chant or like a mantra,
A mantra, okay.
right? So it's like, these are the things. It's kind of like an intention or a resolution. This is what I want. I mean, we've got them in our church when we recite the young women's theme, or, we recite a scripture that can be like a gata or a mantra even.
Gotcha. Yeah,
There's
let's
one,
hear it.
There's one that I really love this so much. So this is one that I tried to memorize it, but I'm not going to test my memorization on this right now. But it's called the Impermanence Gata. And this is what you can say to yourself at the end of a day. The day is ending, and our life is one day shorter. Let us look carefully at what we have done. Let us practice diligently, putting our whole heart into the path of meditation. Let us live deeply each moment in freedom, so that time does not slip away meaninglessly. It's good.
Yeah, it's
So I'm going to read it again.
I think you need to read it again.
Okay. Yeah, because maybe there was like a few hundred thoughts that went through the brain while I was reading it. The day is ending, and our life is one day shorter. Let us look carefully at what we have done. Let us practice diligently, putting our whole heart into the path of meditation. Let us live deeply each moment in freedom, so that time does not slip away meaninglessly. For so long, I've had this guilt that I won't remember when my children were children, when children were young. And maybe there's many women out there that don't know what that is. Maybe they remember everything. I swear my mom remembers everything about us when we were children growing up. But I don't remember everything.
Yeah,
I remember.
In the same way. My wife's always saying, "Do you remember when so-and-so was 2 years old and did this?" I'm like, no, I don't have no.
I remember bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote in a journal because I was worried I would, but I was so busy serving and helping or doing stuff, right? Working in my yard or going to the next thing, that my mindfulness was not where it could have been, and it probably would have helped me remember more when my children were young. And I have felt an overwhelming amount of guilt from that. Like, really felt bad about that because I love my children so much. And I remember my childhood really well, but having a hard time a certain amount of time. When I was at the retreat and I was really meditating on that and feeling that sorrow for that pain, I had a thought and a voice kind of in my head that said, if you can rest, if you can really rest, then you will heal so that those memories will come back to you.
Wow, that's powerful.
I know. And so that time does not slip away meaninglessly. I even have a book that I bought said, How to Make Friends with Time. I've always hated time. I hate that time keeps moving. I tell my kids I'm going to ground them if they grow up, right? Like, stop growing up. So I always have felt like I'm grasping at time. Like, I want you to stay. I want you to stay. Oh, you're leaving me. And then that has made it really hard for me to be okay about death. And even though I've learned, I've been taught a lot about death, and I have a belief of where I go and the next life and everything, still, I don't want to die. I want to stay. Buddhism helps you with death. It's called impermanence, and it helps you be okay because you don't have control on that. You have to. You have no choice but to let go. But you can let go, and then you can just enjoy every moment as the most important, precious moment. And then look forward. You can look forward to the next moment, whatever that moment's going to be. So that helped me too at the retreat.
Yeah, let's explore that a little bit. So death, in Christianity, typically there's a heaven and a hell, right? And you're trying to do things to get to heaven.
Yeah.
And there's kind of the sin part of it that ties into it. So let's explore that a little bit. Is there such a thing as like commandments or, sin in Buddhism? And how did your view of death change when you went to this retreat, being brought up Christian and I wouldn't say not fearing death, but at least knowing that there's an afterlife? How did the Buddhism teachings tie in with that?
So something that I know is true that resonates with me is love. When I have gone to my Heavenly Father and Savior in prayer, when I have really had a good heart-to-heart with God, I have felt loved. And people feel that in nature. They felt that when they truly connect, right? Even when I'm on the wrong, when I'm on a path that's not beneficial or not helpful, I've never felt like that he doesn't love me, or that I am, bad. Because I truly believe that God does not believe us to be bad. He just sees that we're hurting ourselves, that we are disconnecting ourselves from happiness. And so, and then when I've needed corrections, he has corrected me gently in my own way, right? But they're not, you're going to hell kind of feelings. I love you. Can I give you some pointers, or can I give you some suggestions that might help you, or help bring something into my mind that, helps me realize that maybe I should make a change, right? And then I pray for help for the change, because I know that could be a hard change. So I believe that what God does is when he gives us commandments, he's giving us things that will really bless our life to be happy, right? And we can choose not to, but we will have a result. There's a consequence to everything. And there is truth. Buddha knows that there's truths, right? There's truths. There's universal laws and truths. Thou shalt not kill. That is a truth. You don't take somebody's life, right? And there will be consequences to that, for yourself, for others, and I don't know, maybe and for the next life, right? We just have to be really aware. When it comes to sin, again, there's a thing in Buddhism that says right thinking, right diligence. What that is beneficial, wholesome things that are going to help bring happiness and joy. I want to be happy, right? I want to have joy. So I should feed the seeds in me that will bring up happiness and joy.
Yeah, I love this view of, we all have the seed of anger and the seed of peace.
Yeah.
And it's up to us which one we're going to nurture.
Yeah.
And there's similar, metaphors in the Bible, like the mustard seed and the olive tree allegory, right? Where, are we going to take care of the good and bad? Are we going to trim those bad ones off and let a new seed come up? So I really love that metaphor, and I think it rings true that, we have this duality in us, and it's up to us which one we're going to nurture. And it doesn't mean that we're going to make a big tree out of one and it's never going to be struck down by lightning or chopped off or anything, and then this other tree might start to grow. But there's this constant changing, and every day, like you said, being in the moment, every day we have those choices to understand which seed are we going to nurture.
And Christ teaches this, right? He says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Why? He doesn't just want us to obey stuff because he just says, hey, I want to see if they're going to do it. He says, because I love you. And so if you love me, because me and you are one, then you'd follow this because I love you. So if you love me, keep the commandments so you can be happy because I love you. So
it's like it's a
so
circle,
beautiful,
right? Yeah.
Or if you love thy neighbor as you love yourself. You can't love your neighbor unless you love yourself, and you can't love yourself unless you love your neighbor. So there's this thing that he was constantly doing, and it's just so important. So yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about right view. What did you learn about right view in Buddhism? And first of all, can you explain it a little bit? I know it doesn't mean having like the absolute truth or thinking that your view is the right one and the only one. Right. Can you dive into that a little bit? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm still learning, right? And so
We're all learning. Yes.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. I am learning a lot about this and how it plays into. I think you had the wheel. Here it is. So there's there's a chapter in the Heart of Buddhist Teachings that talks about that, and it says the interbeing of the 8 elements of the path. It's on page 57 on here, and all of these are right? So it's like they all play with each other. They're all really important. And so in this graph,
it's like a network.
Yeah, it's like a network, right? And so you have right view, and then right view goes into right thinking. And so
see this one.
Yeah, there we go.
Probably doesn't show up very good.
Yeah. And then when you're having right thinking, then you're working on right speech. I'll just read the rest of them. Right action, right livelihood, right diligence, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And so what this to me is a lot like what you were saying with what are the seeds that I'm watering. So understanding that we do all have that anger. So that's one thing about the Christian thing is, the thing I was raised in is the natural man is an enemy to God, right? And forever will be until he submits to the Holy Spirit, right? And become like a child. So growing up, I was like, oh, I have things inside me that are enemies, right? The enemy my natural man is an enemy. I don't think that's right thinking. I think it's just the way that the scripture is shared. I think that we are all things, and we just need to figure out what are the things that are going to bring us happiness and joy, right, inside. And so I don't like to think about anything inside me that's an enemy, because I don't want to battle inside me like that. I want to love every part of me. I want to understand it, right? But then I want to take care of those parts of me that might be wanting to battle the good parts of me, right? And so I've learned that a lot in those who struggle with drug addiction. And Carl mentioned his struggle with alcohol, that he had to stop hating or battling against it.
That's right. Like start loving himself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Loving the one he is, or loving the addict in him.
Yeah, it's totally different than what we're taught, I think, in contemporary society.
Yeah, love the addict in you, but feed the healthy one in you, right? Give you the healthy. So it's really, really beautiful. And so throughout my day, as I'm practicing mindfulness, I'm always asking that question, is that right thinking? So when I'm creating a story about my husband not being very nice or whatever, I'm going to create a story. Or maybe I think he's acting a lot like my dad, and I had a really big struggle with my father growing up. So sometimes I'll reflect that on my husband, thinking, oh, you're like my dad or whatever. Is that right thinking? Is that perception real? Am I seeing this right? And then when I'm mindful about it, I'm looking deeply, then I can say, no, it may not be. And so you're almost curious about that, almost that thought. So I don't know. And you know what, throughout my life and the mistakes I've made and the sins that I've committed, you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself, even with your flaws.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I like the right view thinking as well, because one of the things that's really struck me from the Buddhist teaching is the question, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Do you really know? You have to always have that openness to learn and not think that your view is set in stone and right.
My mom used to teach me something. It taught me something when I was a child that I've applied through my life. And Technolon has a different kind of way of doing it, but that's similar. Technolon talks about moving the peg, changing the peg, right? So like if you're on a track of wrong or unbeneficial thinking, right? Then you got to change the peg. You take that wrong thought out, or you put aside, and you put a healthy one in, right? Healthy thinking. So, for example, as women, right, we're always battering ourselves. I'm fat and I'm this and that, whatever. So if I have a thought that says, "Oh, it looks so ugly today," whatever. Okay, pay attention. What I just thought, is that right thinking? No, it's not right thinking. So how can I replace it? I have a beautiful smile. And then, okay, that's right thinking. That's going to benefit me rather than tearing me down. And my mom would always call it changing the channel. So, because when I was a child, I used to have nightmares. And so I would wake up in all these nightmares, and my mom would say, "Sweetheart, you just have to change the channel." And so then she'd say, and so I'd actually change the channel. And then she'd say, "Move your head like this." And so when I'd be on the pillow, then she'd go, "You just do this, you change your channel." So it got in my head as a child that if I were just to move my head, then I'm changing the channel. So even in my life, through mindfulness and through my thinking and through, right speech or right action, change the channel. If your speech is bad, like, cussing, I've definitely had my spells here and there of being in that, because there's some endorphin that gets released when you're saying a bad word or whatever. I don't understand it.
It's an emphasis thing, I think.
Yeah. Or it's a feeling, right? It's like you're letting steam out or something. But are saying those words right speech? No, they're not. So it's really hard to change, but you can do it. And so what you're doing is you're mastering this thing, and you're saying, I can do it right. I can do it beneficial. I can have wholesome, action, right diligence. Is this thing I'm working on, this project, right? Making this thing better than going to the park with my child and, spending some time and listening to them and watching them? Probably not, So it takes a lot of mindfulness to an awareness, to an honesty, to say, I'm going to put that down and I'm going to do this thing. Or right mindfulness. In mindfulness, they have with meditate, like mindfulness is you're aware of your body. How's your body feeling? Are you?
Yeah, and that's what the breathing's all about. It's like breathing in the cold air.
Yeah.
And you can notice that your lungs warmed up the air as it comes out, and so.
Well, my back hurts, right? My knees hurt. Okay, at least you're honest about that, right? And then how do your feelings feel? How do your emotions feel? Or are you escaping from that feeling or those emotions? I've escaped, from emotions.
Yeah, I think we all have, definitely.
Yeah, we just don't want to deal with them.
I think chocolate's my escape from my.
Yeah, ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice
cream, cookies, chocolate.
Oh, everything that's sugar, right? So, that answer your question on the eightfold?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to bring up a point that I remember from the right speech part of the book. Is one of the practices that you can do is if you're not in that frame of mind and, somebody's talking to you and you're going to say some wrong speech, that you say, "Darling, I'm not feeling it right now. Can we continue this later?" And I was like, wow, that's just so simple, but so powerful. It's like you stop the wrong speech and, you give up that moment where you might regret later of lashing out or expressing yourself bad, and just say, let's table this. We'll come back to it later.
Distraction is the most amazing thing too, right? So you just want to shift your brain to something, I have to do that with my kids a lot. Like, I can see that going, and they don't want to let go. But it's very patient when you can stop like that, and you can say, the feelings I'm feeling, the way we're feeling towards each other, matter more than my point or what I'm trying to say to you.
Or winning an argument.
Winning and competition. My husband and I have an amazing amount of competition, and so we've had so many times where we should have stopped, and it has escalated into a place where it didn't need to go. And then what happens after that? You feel guilt and shame. You feel bad. You've said things you shouldn't have said. You've hurt. And then you got to really start repairing and working on that, which is so much harder than if you had just taken a break and say, you know what, sweetheart, I'm not feeling good right now. I recognize I don't feel well. And I recognize, maybe in your head you're saying, I recognize I'm blaming you for this feeling, but I need to take responsibility for this feeling. And so I've separated myself many times and gone down and meditated. Or I've said, or I've been at the kitchen, like at the dinner table or breakfast table, right? Everyone's talking and crazy, or they're teasing each other or whatever. And, and I'm feeling so like, stop, I want to control this. And then I'd be like, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to go take a breather. I'm just going to take a break. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I've done that a lot too. For me, it's like I got to leave the house, take a walk for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and
that's calming.
Just,
that's part of it.
Compose yourself.
Stopping, right? Recognition, calming, making friends with that, realizing this is a feeling I'm feeling. Hi. Well, hello. Even with your habit energy, it says in Technolon says, you say, hello, habit energy. Even after the retreat, coming back from the retreat, I had these goals. I'm like, and it was awesome. I'm cleaning my house with so much mindfulness, loving my house, right? Seeing it, and then doing the eating meditation and showing the kids this and everything like that. But there have been times where I definitely where I feel this feeling like about a week after I got back from the pantry, got back from my retreat, I had a phone call about something that triggered a feeling about, having to leave the food pantry and just feeling that feeling of I don't know, that disconnect from that and feeling sadness. And I felt it. I wanted to cry. The anxiety started happening in my chest, and I returned to my breath. I recognized I was feeling this sadness. And I went outside and I looked at our apricot tree. And I just focused in. It's like Lamaze, right? Like the object, and I just looked at it. And I loved it. And I loved myself still. And then I saw it kind of pass, and this is what they say is kind of have a visual, like it's there, like a cloud. And it's just kind of drifting. And you can feel it. You make friends with it. You just sort of, hi, you're there. And sometimes it sticks around. Sometimes that feeling is going to be there for a while, and you would just be like, hey, you're still there. I can feel you, but I'm not angry at you. I'm not ignoring you, but we're going to take care of that.
So how have those lessons and techniques helped you be a better parent? Because that's something that I'm working on as well, is try to understand what my kids are feeling and their emotions. And I think that's something that they're not really taught at school how to deal with, right? That a lot of the bullying and the name calling and all that, it's kind of like a projection of some emotions that they're having. Right. So how have you found that these techniques have helped you, maybe how you've taught these to your children or helped them with their own emotions?
So I have a 14-year-old, and my kids range from 22 years old to 11 years old. And we've all been around each other a lot more now since the missionary came home, and then the college student came home, and, we've all been around. And, they're just awesome kids. I really just am so blessed with the most amazing children, and they teach me so much. But, one of the things that I'm learning is that emotions aren't bad. You don't need to feel, it's not bad that you felt angry. It's actually really natural that you felt that way. So you don't have to feel bad that you were angry. It's just something that comes up with you. And so I was with my 14-year-old, and he had a moment of calming. He had to kind of work it out a little bit. There was, he had an altercation with a sibling and, with a parent, and he was just sort of frustrated, very frustrated, actually. And I am there for him. You have to be present for your kids. Say, sweetheart, when you're ready to talk, I'm here for you. I love you. You're a good kid. Okay? You're a good kid. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay that you felt this, because this is a normal human feeling. You're feeling this. So helping them know that it's okay that they feel this, right? Not that they're bad. They're bad because they felt that.
Yeah, I think that's a big
It's not
step.
An enemy to God, right? It's just part of
natural.
Natural. Mm-hmm. And then when he was ready, he came down and he sat, and I was just holding him. I'm a very huggy mama. And so, I was holding him and scratching his head and giving him a little bit of the love language that he loves, and I was like, sweetheart, want to talk about it? What's going on? And then just listen, deep listening. Let them talk. Don't interrupt. Don't think about the next thing you want to tell them or how you're going to teach them a principle or a lesson, but that they just need to vent. And that's so healing when somebody listens to you, right? It's, you know how that feels for yourself. And so then you're just loving them in that, listening. And then I just ask them questions. So what do you think that you can, what do you think you can do? Let's analyze this a little bit. What are some other things like, we call them restarts, or beginning anew is what they call it in Buddhism. So what would you do different? Well, maybe, so you're discussing, this is what I could do. This is what I could do different. And then you are vulnerable with your child. You say, sweetheart, I have a hard time too.
I've gone through this.
I've gone through this. Okay, this is something that I went through the other day, and that was really hard for me, but I'm learning. And then also I try to express appreciation that my child is teaching me something. Sweetheart, you really have taught me this. Thank you. You're appreciating them so that they realize that you're not on the superiority level from them. You may know some things from the wisdom you've gained from life, but man, they sometimes can be way
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was a really patient man until I had kids, and then I realized I still had a lot more to learn. So yeah, I think that's great. Just recognizing that and telling your kids that, that you're appreciative of them and that it's not just a one-way thing, that they're teaching you as well. So
and you have to be real honest about where you're at too. Because if you're too busy to listen, and I've had that so many times where, my phone's on or, stuff's going on, or I'm in the middle of something and they want to come in and talk. I was in the middle of actually the Sangha meeting when my son went through that, and I turned it off, because you've got to turn off. And sometimes I'll be like, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Did not hear what you just said. Like, can you say that again? And then, and then there's been times where my kids are like, Mom, just don't listen to me, or, they want to create their story. You don't love me, or you don't care. Be like, hey, babe, I'm trying, okay? And so if as a family, you can be really honest with each other that you're just trying, it really can help a lot of healing happen. Because you know what? You are not the perfect family, and you are not got it all figured out. And this stuff is amazing, but it is a practice.
A lifelong practice,
right? Christianity,
just like Christianity.
Everything that we're embarking on and that we embrace is a journey. And so I don't know. It's when I got back from the retreat after those days, going through those days and learning and just being fed in that resting period, I took 2 days and went around to and stayed at at the beach at the beach, like at a place, Airbnbs, and had the most amazing peaceful time looking for rocks in Jade Cove and loving myself, loving people that I love, and being okay with where I'm at. And so it was interesting because like on Facebook and on other, people would just constantly asking me, what's your next thing? What's your next thing? What's your next thing? Because people will
after the pantry.
Yeah. So people will keep driving you on your habit energy. You've built up an expectation. So now you got to keep it moving. And so I didn't even answer some of them. I was like, I don't know what to say. And so
I found that's a great technique for Facebook. Just don't reply.
Just don't.
Because otherwise you start going down a rabbit hole.
Or you change the subject, or you say something else, or you ask them about them. So how are you doing?
Right, yeah.
There's technique. There's ways to deter some of that stuff. But so when I got home, I just had this feeling that said, it's now your mission and your calling to learn how to stop and rest. I have never done it before. This is going to be the biggest challenge in my life, harder than learning how to feed people, is going to learn how to stop and rest, which just sounds so weird because my whole life I was stop and resting meant laziness. But that's not what this is. It's mindfulness. And you're going to teach your children. You're going to teach them all these mindfulness practices. And then 2 weeks later, my kids couldn't go to school, and the school stopped, and all this stuff happened, and then the COVID thing and everything. And then it was like, wow, the whole world is in this with me. Like we're working on this together. So it's been a really amazing thing. I've still have to recognize, I'm recognizing myself all the time. Like I've been really into making all these meals that I've never made before, like probably a lot of people are. I made Indian food, I made tamales, I made all this stuff. And then the other day realized, oh, hello, habit energy. You're like, you're getting stressed over what meal you're going to make that night. Like it's trying to take you over again. Calm down, leftover night's nice night, and it's okay. And then my garden, plants, I want to get these plants in. I want to do these things. Can I relax in my yard without thinking of all the things I need to get done? Hello, habit energy. There you are. You just are going to be there. And so I just have to recognize that that's just me. And also, I just want to touch one more thing about taking care of relieving the suffering, because I'm not on the front lines like many are. Like our wonderful healthcare workers, or the people that are at the pantries, or the people who are helping at rehabs, right? Trying to help care for people. But if I can really work on me and be my best self and take care of the people in my spheres of influence, loving them, and I can really meditate and love them, I really believe that my healthy energy will somehow relieve a suffering now and in the future. It's this feeling that I feel that somehow I can heal others by being healthy and well myself. And if I can do that in tandem, so whatever my next project is, whatever I do next, which don't really know yet, it's okay that I don't know yet, but whatever that is, I really hope that I don't forget this schooling that I've been, and I continue to be the student of taking care.
Yeah, scripture really comes to mind along those lines as, a man should not run faster than he has strength.
Absolutely.
Right? So
it is a true thing.
We need to take that to heart.
Look at how many people are on, medications, and look how people are trying to find ways to relieve their suffering in unhealthy ways that they just are spinning, and they're
stimulants and drugs and
they're spinning out of control. Or they're having so much contention within families because they're trying to control everything. That's another part of Buddhism. It's letting go.
Yeah, just realizing that. I think this COVID-19 has really brought this up, that we really don't have a lot of control that we think we do. That the earth is like, I can wipe you out with a virus whenever I want. It's like, stop abusing me,
Yeah.
So
letting go is freedom.
We just have to accept things sometimes and
let it go.
I love those 5 remembrances that I went through with Carl, accepting that we're going to die, that we're going to grow old, that we're going to be ill, and that we're going to lose those around us, and that there's consequences to our actions. I think if everybody learned that, and especially right now with like the death and the illness part, it's just facing mortality, that these things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's only a point that we can do to help prevent them or help slow them down, but it's just part of life.
I have hated the idea of growing old. I haven't loved it. And you're dyeing your hair, and you're, trying to do all these things to stop it, to try to stop time as much as you can. I mean, look at our world, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm still not exactly there on embracing gray hair and all that, But I just like, when I'm old, when I'm elderly, I really, really hope that I can just smile at my wrinkles and be fine with it all. The way that I'm transforming, the way I'm changing, that is what I want to be. And that's what I'm working on is, I don't want to be what I perceive myself to be in the mirror or what I think others perceive me to be. I just want to be me. And if someone doesn't accept it or think it's good, okay. But you're being yourself and you're loving you.
Being true to yourself.
Yeah. And you know what? If everybody left, if I was all alone, if my family was gone, husband's gone, friends gone, could I be happy because I love me and I'm resting in my true home, which is me? And Buddhism says that you can rest in your true home, which is you. And many of us have felt very uncomfortable with that thought of me, of who you are, right? But that's what God wants. That's what Buddha wants.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, we've hit a lot of subjects here.
It's been good.
Any last thoughts or teachings that you learned from the monastery that you'd like to share with someone, and leave us with any advice you have?
You can download an app. I don't know if you talked about this with Carl. I don't remember. It's called Plum Village.
Mm-mm.
You can look it up, Plum Village app, and it will take you through. You'll see silent meditations, guided meditations, beautiful things from Technolon. It's nice. So you can get started with that. And they even have a bell of mindfulness where you can set it for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. It'll go off like a little boom. It's like really soft, but it can help you return to your breath. So, okay, I'm here, I'm present, I'm not somewhere else, right? In my head. So that's really, really helpful.
Plum Village app.
Plum Village app.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's like an orange little app.
Great.
So that was really good that I learned there. Also, you can go on YouTube and you can subscribe to any of the Deer Park or Plum Village talks.
YouTube channels.
On the YouTube channel, Dharma Talks. The Buddhism that I am following is Zen Buddhism. It's more in the center. There are a lot of different kind of Buddhist thoughts and practices. So, but yeah, I guess, just after this retreat, loving and connecting with the people that were there and creating those relationships, and we keep checking in, like, how are you doing? How's things going for you? Also, let yourself go on a retreat or something. I mean, these 5-day retreats, they have monasteries, around the world, and
are there several here in the U.S.?
There's, I think 3, maybe more, but they're from Thich Nhat Hanh. So if you just, also this book is the greatest.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed reading this one too.
The Heart of Buddha's Teachings.
As well as this one, Living Buddha, Living Christ, which kind of brings the similarities of Christianity and Buddhism together. So.
Yeah, and then just, from the retreat, I just would take what I learned. They have this thing where you would agree to, to not harm animals or to not eat meat. I haven't made that commitment.
I definitely haven't either.
Right? So it's okay, right? And so, there's just different things in Buddhism. It's kind of like with LDS, we have the word of wisdom. They also have their word of wisdom. And you don't have, that's the beautiful thing about what I'm learning here. You're still accepted. You can still practice these things. And it's not like you're out of the club if you eat meat. You can think about it. You can, maybe eventually I would think like that or feel that way because of how I'm feeling and thinking about the suffering animal or something. Or maybe it does all change a little bit of how my behaviors. But I can love myself and I can cut myself a break too. And so I love the love and the peace that I feel in it. And but yeah, check it out. That's good. You should go. Once they open up. Right now they're not opened up because of COVID, but it was a real blessing for me, and I'm very thankful. And I'm excited to see where it's going to take me into the next thing. Right now, my thing is to learn and to stop.
Yeah, I mean, we're all on this journey, like you said, and we're at different points in this journey, and just accepting that, I think, is a big part of getting to where we want to be. So
yeah, it's good.
Okay, Anadine, it's been great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I've really enjoyed it, and I love your story and everything you've shared, and thank you for sharing, being vulnerable, because it's hard to do, especially on camera. So,
well, good luck to you and just everybody who's trying. That's one thing that the LDS Church has been really emphasizing is we're trying, right?
Yeah.
Get up. Just let's love ourselves.
Stop pushing yourself down. Just
let's love ourselves in the journey and the trying, and let's not be so hard on ourselves. And then maybe if we're not so hard on ourselves, we'll stop being so hard on others.
I like it. It's a great message to end with. Stop being hard on yourself and treat yourself kindly. Speak good thoughts to yourself. That's a big one too. And download that Plum Village app. All right, viewers. Until next time.